Hi, welcome to Nancy Jean's Garden. And today, my friend and a psychic colleague of sorts, Brad, is here. And Brad's the one that I put in the comments that he does past life regressions, quantum healing, normal hypnosis, and just kind of works with a lot of therapy. And he's really finally bloomed and moved up into that role this year. And so he's got a lot of really fun new material for us to talk about, because quantum healing is one of those words that people throw around, and I'm not sure anybody knows exactly what it's about. So I asked him if he could tell me about that, because that's the thing that by 2-to-1, more people who watch this channel want to know about quantum healing. So Brad, can you give us a brief history of yourself and then start into your part of the discussion?
Sure. So I really started my my journey to quantum healing and hypnosis back in 2019 when my sister passed away. I'd sort of always been connected to the other side, but didn't really know what to do with it. And after she passed away, I met with a psychic who brought her in, and she really was very insistent that I work with her on the other side. She said she couldn't be the sister that she wanted to be for me on this side, so she wanted to be able to work with me on the other side. And that really for me was sort of a jump start for me to start learning anything spiritual that I could. And people started coming into my life, teachers that I worked with and was guided from. And hypnosis was something that always intrigued me. You know, my education is in clinical counseling, and that's always been an interest of mine. So I really got on the path to be certified as a hypnotist, and quantum healing is something that actually I did the week before my sister passed away. I don't know what made me decide to go do a quantum healing session, but I was in my car at work at lunch one day and it popped into my head, and I found somebody, and that Friday I was having a session. And to be honest, I really think that session helped me with her death and get through the next week and all of the things that I needed to deal with that. And so it's something that for me, I really wanted to make sure that I incorporated into my own hypnotherapy practice, because I really wanted to make sure that other people could gain that sort of experience as well. And so I have worked with people through the Beyond Quantum Healing certification program. And
what was the name of the certification program?
It's Beyond Quantum Healing.
Beyond, okay.
It's actually based in Dolores Cannon's QHHT program, which is the quantum healing hypnosis technique. And so Dolores Cannon's technique is very sort of focused on the QHH technique, whereas Beyond Quantum Healing utilizes that, but also recognizes that other modalities can be used with the quantum healing to help clients. And for me, I feel like that's what I like to do, is that it's not just about one thing or the other. When I'm working with clients, for me, it's a lot of my guiding is based off of each individual to make sure that they're getting what they need from the session that we have together. And quantum healing in and of itself really is speaking to being able to change energies, or being able to heal physically or emotionally. And for me, I'm doing it through hypnosis. So what I'm doing is seeking to change that energy through the client's higher self. Which Dolores Cannon would have called the subconscious, or some people call it the oversoul. I prefer the term the higher self. The higher self really is just who we are at our core when we are back on the other side. It is our true being, because we come here to learn certain things. And if we came into this lifetime knowing everything that we know, then we probably wouldn't be able to learn and grow spiritually like we need to here. So we tend to forget a lot of that when we get here, but our higher self knows all of that. And so we can get answers from our higher self through these sessions.
Okay. And you do past lives also, because I read past lives in the cards, and I know that it can make somebody go, oh, yeah, I have always felt that way. You mean that was like programmed in somewhere? How do you combine the two practices?
Yeah, so I really do think that quantum healing, hypnosis, and past life regressions go hand in hand, because when we do the quantum healing hypnosis, we're regressing people back to a different time. Sometimes it's this lifetime, but more often than not, it's another lifetime that they've lived. And from what I understand from my own guides from the other side, their guides will come in and sort of bring in the lifetimes that they feel like they need to witness, depending on what they're coming to work through. And so we utilize the past lives to allow the client to view them, which for me, that's always been a very transformative experience personally, because when you're viewing the past life that you've done, you're able to sort of relive it, but not in a traumatic way, if that makes sense. You're able to sort of like look at the lifetime from the outside, even though you're kind of looking at it through the eyes of you in that lifetime. And oftentimes, like you just said, people will say, oh, okay, that's why this happens now in this lifetime. So we're trying to make connections from that lifetime to this lifetime that may be bringing over negative patterns or things like that need to be changed. And oftentimes it's just witnessing that and making that connection is enough for people to be able to change that sort of behavior or whatnot for themselves.
Okay. You and I were talking offline. You started talking about people's soul families, helping them. Yeah.
So when we do this, since the client is in a hypnotic state, when we're viewing the past lives, I'll often ask their soul families to step in, especially if we're doing a transition between lives, because when you're doing a past life regression, we almost always bring them to their death so they can see that point in their life, and then they can cross over. And when they cross over, that allows them to sort of step into what I call the other side, which is where our souls go when we pass. And they're able to meet with their soul family there. And we'll ask them to come in, and if there's any healing that they need to do, either emotionally or physically, they can step in and do healing on the other side that way. Our soul families will often do that throughout. You can just ask them when you're not in a hypnotic state to come in and do that. They'll often do that. But here it's good because it allows the client to see that happening for them. And so them coming in really is, like you said earlier, it's sort of a booster for them to just sort of jumpstart what we're already doing with the hypnosis session.
And give them an anchor to tie to instead of just drifting out there.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's been one of the more profound changes you've seen in someone?
I would say that I had a client who came in, and a lot of times clients will come in with wanting like answers about physical ailments and whatnot. And one of my clients came in and they had a pretty severe case of psoriasis. And they really wanted to figure out why that was happening. Because if you go to a dermatologist, they're always looking for some sort of physical reason as to why the psoriasis is happening. And this person had some issues with weight as well that they were talking about. And when we had a conversation with the higher self, they really said their answer to them was that you've been asking us to help you lose weight, and this was our way of sort of pushing you into doing that. If you lose weight, the psoriasis is going to clear itself. And probably within a month and a half of the session, they started on a diet plan, started losing weight. Within 15 pounds, the psoriasis was already starting to clear up, and within 3 months, it was almost completely gone. So for me, that was pretty big validation that this does work.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've never had psoriasis, but I do know psoriasis and being overweight, they're both products of inflammation in your body where things are out of balance. And so if you cure one, you're going to kind of cure the other, but you can't just treat one and not treat the other. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think everything is sort of interconnected. There was a term years ago that somebody had talked to me about called psychosomatic medicine, and how a lot of our physical ailments stem from psychological issues that our brain is trying to avoid. And so the physical ailments manifest themselves in a way that keeps us preoccupied, so we're not focusing on that psychological issue that our brain thinks we can't handle.
Well,
And
I know
sort of
I can testify to that one because as an infant, I got someone put me in a crib with a bottle at the wrong angle and I almost choked to death. And my older brother, when they did something like what you do to get me back to there to see what happened. It was my older brother, who was 4 at the time. He came and he pushed me over and I quit choking. And then my great aunt came in and picked me up out of the crib and was trying to figure out, my mom had 3 kids at the time. She put me in the crib, thought the bottle, she was a nurse. She knew, she thought she knew what she was doing. And but from then on, for the rest of my life, when I would get really stressed and really afraid, my throat would close, just as if someone was strangling me. Once I understood that incident had been part of my life, it never happened again.
Wow. It really is crazy how the mind is connected to the physical body. And I think like in our society, that's not something that we really focus a lot on. And it's unfortunate because I've seen a lot of people heal just by recognizing something like what you just said. And we don't always have to go to a past life to find that in quantum healing hypnosis. We can, in just learning hypnosis itself, we did a lot of age regression in that in this lifetime, and we're able to find things like that in people's lives that sort of stem from that and why they've carried that through with them. Yeah.
Well, I was kind of interested because the other thing that's going on right now, and it started in 2018 actually, but it's the increase of the energetic light force that's hitting our planet from the sun, the cosmos, and everywhere. And we just, if people watch my channel, I know I'm fascinated with it, but we've rolled into a part of the universe that we only get to about every 12,000 years. And we're in it right now. And it's like, we're getting more energy pounded into our bodies than we have ever had. The human race has since it's been writing and talking about itself. And it's actually physically changing people. And I think people need to understand. Do you think that would accelerate the problems of the sorts of things that, or impediments people might have in their lives if they don't take care of them? Is that going to make that much worse?
I think, yeah. Because I think one of the things, like if we're being hit with a lot of energy at one time, and maybe you're somebody who doesn't recognize that that's happening and you have all of that energy, but you don't know what to do with it, you oftentimes things get chaotic for you. And yeah, I think that it can speed things up for them because that energy isn't really going anywhere, right?
No.
And they're not sort of making the changes that they need to make. I know they've talked a lot. People have talked a lot in the past couple of years about how we're shifting into sort of a new earth and whatnot. And I think that that's what's happening with a lot of people. There seems like there's a lot of chaos in the world right now. And I think that that's because we're being forced to change and move forward. And a lot of people don't like that energy. And so they're really sort of fighting the energy that's being pushed upon us. And that's really causing a lot of like chaos around right now. So, yeah.
Well, especially if people don't want to change the patterns they're used to, and the universe is saying, by the way, this is going to change.
Yeah. I will say, like, one example that I have is like my mother has always been a very intuition and psychic ability has always run in my family. But because I grew up in a pretty strict religion, a lot of that was sort of pushed away, right? And not nurtured. And so you would see fear from the gifts as opposed to embracing them and utilizing them. And I've seen that in my mother. She's always sort of had this intuitive gift, but she doesn't really know how to deal with it. And because of that, I think she holds on to a lot of energy. And because she holds on to that energy, it manifests itself in she cannot keep an electronic device going, or
You're frozen.
Like something's wrong with it. And I really think a lot of that is because she holds onto that energy and doesn't know what to do with it. So the energy is just short-circuiting everything around her. And so it really is important to sort of ground yourself and deal with the energy that you're given.
Yes, it's kind of unique because while you were talking about how all of her electronics broke, you froze on my screen.
Yep.
What can I say? I know I've had my second husband, Bill, we couldn't keep a light bulb on in our house when he was not happy with the world, you know. And he'd just go, I'm not being unreasonable. Life would go out. Okay, whatever you want to say, honey, fine.
What more do you need? What more messages do you need from the universe?
Well, yeah. And do you find that, well, I know you've just recently gone away from the clinical counseling work that you did before, which it was with students or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I worked in substance abuse for a long time doing counseling there. And then in the past few years, I've been working in higher education, advising students.
Okay. Because are you finding that a lot more people are turning towards the spiritual right now? I mean, they are if you're doing it near that world, but. Yeah,
I definitely see a lot more people, waking up, as people say. And I see a lot more people more open to the possibility of it. There was a time where I was very careful about who I talked to about this kind of stuff because, you never know how people feel. But I feel like since, my sister said what she said to me about doing this kind of work, I really haven't kept it in. And it's been interesting because it's been actually pretty liberating and nobody's ever said anything and people listen to me when I talk. It sort of reminds me of when I came out when I was 18. I feel like a lot of top people, they're fearful of it. And I came out and was just I am who I am. I'm, me or don't like me. And I've never really had any issues with that part of my life. And I think that it's because I just let go of all of that fear around being myself. And this was sort of another coming out for me, saying to people, I can talk to my spirit guides. I have people come to me and talk to me that you can't see, or I work with people who I bring to a past life. I mean, past life is not at one time was not something that a lot of people embrace, but I've seen nothing but acceptance from it when I talk to people. People seem to be a lot more open to that idea than they used to be.
Yeah, I find that too, and I find that. My friends of mine have told me, you tell your doctor you're a psychic. And it really helps because when I was pregnant 31 years ago with Patrick, my doctor, she knew kind of what I did and what I practiced. She'd been to my home. She'd seen the crystals and the stones and the things that I didn't have anything like this, but I had them around. And at one point when I was waiting out, trying to not have the baby too early, she said, would it help if you brought some of your rocks from home? Would that help you? I mean, and they're accepting. And I've managed to manifest in by being true about who I am. I'm going to a cardiologist right now. And he said, I said, well, I'm a psychic. And so sometimes electronics don't work the same way on me because they have me on a heart monitor. And he said, oh, I have people like you in my family. Yeah, you're right. You don't do anything the way it's supposed to, and that's much better that they know that up front than you break their stuff and then they kind of get pissed. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's interesting that you just said that because a couple of months ago, I was at my doctor's office and we were having a conversation and I had just brought up the fact that I had quit my job to do this full time. And I was a little hesitant to say something to him about it, but I decided to go ahead and say something. And he immediately was like, oh, I believe in all of that. He said, I've been reading about Buddhism and psychics, and next week I'm going to get a Reiki session done. And I was just in my mind, I was just I did not expect my medical doctor to tell me that he was going to get Reiki next week.
Yes, but so that shows you that we're much more mainstream than we've been sort of brainwashed into thinking we have to go stand in the corner. Yeah. I was never very good at standing in the corner, so that never really worked with me.
Yeah. Everything really is interconnected, I believe that.
If someone was to come to you, what would be the couple of things that you think they should consider before they come to you, and what would you need to know about them?
Something that they should consider is sort of what questions they want answered. When they come especially for a quantum healing session, they want to come in with questions that I will utilize during the session to speak to their higher self and get those questions answered. And I will say from personal experience doing the quantum healing, it is a very interesting experience speaking to your higher self because it's sort of like you step to the side and somebody else is talking through you. You hear your voice, but you're not the one answering the questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting experience to sort of be there, but like not feel like you're in control of that. You're always in control, but like not you're not making the answering those questions for yourself. But outside of the questions, really sort of just come in with an open mind. You know, for me, I work with people from all spiritual backgrounds, religious backgrounds and whatnot. And I don't believe that you have to be from one certain belief system in order to benefit from this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what I should know about them, usually the first session that I have with a client, these sessions can last up to 4 hours, especially the initial one, because the first hour or so we're actually sitting down and having a conversation about them, their history, things that they want to know about themselves and what their goals sort of are. So
Mm-hmm.
I get to know them pretty well in that first hour. Because I want to be able to go in and guide them in a way that is beneficial for them individually, right?
Right.
I always tailor everything, and I feel like this comes from my background in substance abuse and in academic advising. In that, to me, I need to meet people where they're at, and so I need to know who the person is in order to be the best guide that I can for them and help them achieve the goals that they need.
Oh, good. And is there like something someone would come in with and you're going, no, I don't do that. I know there's always the obvious one is you can't fix their wife or husband or weird parents or anything else like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be a self thing, but is there any sort of misconceptions people come in with about what you're going to do?
I mean, I think like the only misconception that I've really seen from a few people is that they expect to like change overnight.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really anything that we can't tackle as long as it pertains to themselves. We're not going in and trying to change other people's energies or do any of that, because you know, your life is your life and their life is their life, and that's not what we're here for. So we can really do anything that they want to do and work on anything that they want to do. Get any questions answered that they want to know about. But I feel like the biggest thing that some people come in with is that they're going to leave and everything's going to change overnight. And normally, I would say, in my own experience, it takes, you know, you will see stuff. You will see different things happening within a day, but probably it takes up to a month, 1 to 3 months for things to sort of come to full fruition. Like that client that I had that had the psoriasis, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't going to leave and then the next day wake up and there was not going to be any psoriasis on their body.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So
there's a whole lot of processes involved in that. Yeah.
Right. Emotional things tend to shift a little bit quicker than physical things just because of the way that the physical body works. But other than that, there's not really anything that we can't tackle as long as it's for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, because it's like when I build grids for people, some people have fantastic, incredible things that happen afterwards. And some people say, well, it was really slow in coming out. I wasn't sure I was seeing it. One woman, quite honestly, wrote to me and she said, I got one of your grids, nothing happened. But she said, then again, I'm not trying to make anything happen. So, you know.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I was saying to you earlier off camera when we were talking about, how I sort of got to this point, and I was talking about how a lot of my teachers sort of just came to me and, synchronicity and whatnot. And that's sort of how you came to me as well. I was watching a video on Intuit Views channel, and you were on there one day, and I was just like, immediately, I need one of those grids. And right after the video ended, I went in and ordered one from you. And I always try to connect with people who I feel like my energy matches. And so that's what I felt with you. And when I ordered it and you sent it to me, it was beautiful. I loved it. I put it in my room, but I didn't activate it when it first came, because in my mind, it needed to be the right time for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was probably 5 months before I even activated it. I actually made the decision to go to Sedona, Arizona. I needed a break, and I took 2 friends of mine and we drove to Arizona, and we went to Sedona, and I wanted to sit on a vortex and
Fire it up.
yeah. And oddly enough, in the past that would have embarrassed me to like sit on a rock and activate something like that. And we took I hired a guide to take us around to see the different places. But I did it, and that vortex, I feel like when I came back, it was so charged up that, because I had really been procrastinating a lot in moving forward in getting this done. And within, I want to say 3 weeks of getting that charged up, I had put in my notice at work and said, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to do my hypnosis practice and quantum healing and intuitive readings and whatnot and all of that full time. And so it's crazy how you're right. Like, it's not going to work for you unless you want it to work for you. And
you have to put the energy and the time in. And I've had people who've made a great deal of money, but on having a grid, but if they had not done the work and built the company and done all the stuff they did, that money wouldn't have been there. It couldn't just make the same grid for somebody else. And I think readings and the work you do is the same way. It's a commitment. It's a two-way commitment. You can use all the skill you have to help them understand who they are and lead them to that point. But at the end of the day, it's the person who's receiving the information and needs to let their energy go.
Right. Yeah, I definitely have seen that, because there have been some family and friends who wanted to do, the hypnosis, and they wanted help with one thing or another. But going into it, I felt like, they just kind of want this because they think that they want to make the change, but they're not ready for that right now. And, the results actually showed that, like, they came out of it and nothing really changed because they weren't really open to what the change that they really wanted to make. And, I made a deal with my guides that if I did this full time, that they would help bring people to me who really wanted to make those changes, because those are the people that I want to work with. You know what I mean? I don't want to be doing this for just people who just are interested in what's happening. I want to really be able to make change in life. And that's sort of been my what's the word that I want to use? My life path is really been to guide people and help people. And this is just another way for me to do that.
Yeah, yes. Well, I admire that. And I like it when people are like that, and it's not just, that they want to really help people understand the spirit and how to work with it. Because, it's one thing, we can sit here and read current events and things all day, and as distressing as they can be. But unless each one of us is individually going to have to change and individually have to tie into the energy of the collective for us to move forward. And I think when people become aware of someone with your kind of skills and what you can do, I'm more than willing to help people understand that and actually push it, because I think that's what really helps. It helps me, it helps the collective, it helps all the people that are out here trying to do it, Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the more people we can get connected, the higher the energy is going to be on this earth. And I think that's what we're doing right now. We're heading into that sort of time.
Yeah, this next 2 years ought to be a lot of fun. If the energetic earth shift people, the ley lines and the vortices. I mean, you went to Sedona, you felt the energy that's there. Isn't it incredible? And that energy is really over the whole planet. It's just not all connected exactly right.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be. I'd always wanted to experience it because I've been learning about this stuff and interested in this stuff for forever. And I just finally was like, I need to go to a vortex, and this was the perfect excuse to go, was to charge up my grid. And so going there and experiencing the vortexes was different than I had ever expected it to be. Like, I didn't expect to feel the energy that I felt there. I knew I was going to feel something, but I didn't expect it to be so intense.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did that, because you're the second person I've had that I know that fired their grid up at Sedona.
Yeah. And
she said it was so weird because she kept carrying it around in this bag, because for those of you who don't know, the grids are like 8x8 frames, so they're not incredibly bulky. And she kept carrying around a bag, and she could never get to an area that she felt was one of the special places that where there weren't like a bunch of people hanging around, and she didn't really want to explain it. She didn't want to get their energy on it and stuff. Finally, one day at lunch, she went out and she went into this beautiful garden. She'd never seen it without like 5 or 6 people in it. It was completely empty. She had her thing with her. She fired it up. She said she could really tell that it was different than the other day she'd been in the garden. And she also said she felt the vortice differently because she was sort of tying into that energy and saying, I'm making myself available for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually forgot about this, but one of the most profound experiences that I had there was because I hired a guide to take us around. I wanted to like know where all the hidden places were in Sedona, and he had taken us to an area where there was I believe it was like a big Buddha statue, and behind it was a medicine wheel. And we just wandered around for 20 minutes or so, and then we went up to the medicine wheel, and he said, like, let's go in and do this together. And so we went in with him and 2 of my friends that went with me, and we were just walking this medicine wheel. And I've been fortunate enough to get to know a couple of my guides since doing all of this, and my sister, and then my grandfather also, who passed away before I was born. He's always been around me. Every reading that I've had over the last 20 years, he's always come up and said, I'm proud of you. When I started doing this, he became very prevalent in as being part of my team over there. But as I was walking this medicine wheel, I just became like completely overwhelmed with emotion, and it felt like that was the moment for me that all of the stuff that I had done before that to sort of get to this point, I knew like I was on the right path, and that's when I needed to make the changes, because I could feel my sister and my grandfather and my guide April and my grandmother even came in, and my aunt came in, and then one of my other guides, who is technically he's the one that's protecting me on the other side and sort of keeping things away from me. He never says anything. He's always standing off in the corner, but I felt him jump on my back because he was so excited that I was taking those steps. And it was the craziest thing, because I was so overcome with emotion. I just started crying while I was walking in the circle, and there were at least 20 people standing around the circle waiting for us to finish so they could go into it and do the same thing. But like, I just didn't care in that moment, because I knew at that point in time it was I was on the right path, and this was what I was meant to do. So
do you know what a labyrinth is, right?
Yep.
In Christian, okay, is walking a medicine wheel somewhat like walking the labyrinth?
Yeah, a little bit, except that it's just a circle.
Oh, okay.
And you go into the circle and you walk the circle, I believe 5 times around. You just go slow, and as you're doing it, you're supposed to either meditate or connect or whatnot. And that's really what happened for me, was that the connection.
That's where it hit you.
Yeah. Yep. So that was so I know that you've been talking a lot about like energies in the earth and whatnot, and I feel like that energy there was really what helped me connect to that point. So energetically, and so like I don't want to say aggressively, but like that's sort of how it felt, was like the energy was aggressive, and that's how I was able to feel them and see them. I
don't know if it's aggression or if it's just available.
Probably, yeah.
And it's bubbling up there, so it's easier to find,
Yeah.
Because I think you can get in some spots where there's like no energy, and you can feel very drained and vacant and disconnected from the rest of the world. And it's part of the thing. I don't know if you see this in your practice, but when people start getting real connected, they have all the vertigo and the ringing in their ears and all that good stuff. And they're going, I'm supposed to be getting better, and this is how I feel. And you're going, it's part of the game.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, I've heard people say before that like it gets, when you're in that like awakening process, that the first part of it is very uncomfortable, because you're adapting to things that you've never experienced before, and so like it can be very uncomfortable for you. But yeah, I've definitely seen that in my practice.
Well, good. Okay. Is there anything I'm going to put the Bradley's, it's bradleyhamlin.com is his website. I'm going to put it in the notes below so you can learn how to contact him if you have more questions or comments. Please question and comment on this show and let us know what you want to know about it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to set it up as a premiere or not because tech support's going out of town this week for work, and I don't get my stuff unless he's here to do it, because all I do is tape it, guys. People say, why don't you edit your programs? Well, because I'm not the one who'd have to do it. But thank you so much, Bradley. And Bradley sent me an email about some stuff that was going on around him and was telling me the further adventures of his life. And I said, that's subjects I've been trying to find somebody in. So this is one of those synchronicities. I was trying to find someone in quantum healing so I could understand it better. And I know there's different people who use the same term for different sorts of things. But this is his version of it, and it's how it's a one-on-one kind of quantum healing, which I hope it also, if it woke you up to the idea of past lives and how you can use your past lives for productive reasons, that would be good too.
Yeah.
So any closing statement, Bradley, before we depart from this?
I just want to say thank you for being part of, one of the people that helps me on my journey to where I'm at, and to help me help the people that are going to come into my life. I don't think without the people that I was sort of able to work with over the past couple of years, I would be where I am right now. So I really thank you for that.
Well, and I want to thank you because, you pump out, I've pumped out over 100 grids, right? And by now, I think I sort of added them up, came up something like that. And, unless people give you feedback, you don't ever know. You just throw stuff out in the universe, and I just trust that it's going to work where it's supposed to work. Yeah. But it really helps us get up and keep going in the morning when we know that we are having a positive effect more than the one we think of in our own head. So thank you for telling me and letting me know and what's going on in your life. Thank you so much for sharing with my audience and enlightening us about something we needed some help with. And I'm not at all sure when this is going to be up because of Patrick and his schedule. So it will probably be before the 21st, and I will post a note and I'll let Bradley know. We're trying to do a premiere so he can be in the first chat, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm trusting the universe at this point. We got a full moon this week, man. Who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. That's all we can do. Trust the universe. That's
right. Trust the universe, and we'll see you later. Thank you for coming, Bradley. Thank you for visiting the show.
Thanks.